The rain had not fallen for years. The sky, like the soul of the prophet, had dried into a silence that echoed. Elijah, once a roaring voice of God before kings and altars, now found himself alone, terrified, burned out. The fire of Mount Carmel had faded, and all that remained was ash. The cave in Horeb was cold and dark, but it was safer than Jezebel's threats, safer than the weight of purpose too heavy to bear. Elijah lay on the ground, and like many of us, he whispered the most human of prayers. "It is enough. Now, O Lord, take away my life." How many men have spoken those words, though not aloud, in traffic, in the shower, in the still hours when no one sees? How many carry the ache of spiritual drought, feeling that the rain of meaning and joy has stopped? There's a modern prophet in each man who once believed in something bigger, but now doubts it all. A man who once spoke boldly of calling, now silenced by exhaustion. You, listening to this, may not wear camel skin, but you carry burdens Elijah would recognize. Depression is not cowardice. It is often the collapse of a soul that once carried too much, too far, for too long. In a world that celebrates relentless drive, stillness feels like failure. But maybe, just maybe, the cave is not defeat. Maybe it's the place God leads us to whisper something new. Pascal once wrote, "All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone." Elijah is in that room now, alone. And yet, this very isolation becomes sacred. A voice had once thundered in him. Now there is only the wind outside and the echo of his thoughts within. This is the beginning of healing, not in victory, but in surrender. When the fire is gone, when the miracles cease and you are left with only breath, it is there God begins to rebuild. In the silence of Horeb, Elijah braces himself for the voice of God. Surely it will be as before, thunderous, fiery, unmistakable. He stands at the mouth of the cave, but the wind that comes tears the rocks apart, and God is not in it. Then comes an earthquake, but God is not there either. A fire follows, but still, no God. And then, a whisper. The Hebrew calls it kol demama daka, the sound of thin silence, a breath barely audible. And there, in that gentleness, God speaks. We who are addicted to noise, power, achievement, we are trained to look for God in spectacle, but God often chooses the subtle. He meets us in the pauses, not the performance. C.S. Lewis said, "God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains." But sometimes he doesn't shout, he waits. He lets us listen deeply enough to hear the whisper beneath the chaos. In burnout, our ears finally become tender. In the silence of the soul, we realize we've been running, not just from people or pressures, but from ourselves and from God. And yet he comes, not to condemn, but to ask the most gentle, piercing question. What are you doing here, Elijah? It's not just a geographic question. It's a spiritual diagnosis. How did you get here, my son? Where did the joy go? When did the fire become smoke? God doesn't demand a performance. He invites an answer. He invites us to tell the truth. Elijah does. He pours it out. I have been very jealous for the Lord. I alone am left, and they seek my life to take it away. This is where restoration begins, in honesty. When we can finally admit, God, I'm tired, I'm scared, I feel alone, and God listens. The whisper is not an answer, it is presence, it is mercy, it is enough. Before the cave, there was another moment. Elijah had fled into the wilderness, collapsed under a broom tree and begged to die. And God did not scold him. He sent an angel, not with a sermon, but with bread. "Arise and eat," the angel said, for the journey is too great for you. And Elijah ate and lay down again. And again the angel returned. God knows our frame. He remembers we are dust. For he speaks to our soul, he feeds our body. Before he restores our mission, he acknowledges our fatigue. In burnout, men often feel ashamed of needing rest, ashamed of not being able to carry it all. But the gospel is not for the self-sufficient.
it is for the weary. Jesus himself said, "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." Rest is not laziness. Rest is obedience. Rest is trust. In the desert, God sends food. In the cave, he sends a whisper. In both, he sends himself. The journey is long, and you will not make it on adrenaline or ambition. You will need daily bread. You will need silent grace. You will need to let the angel wake you up and offer you something simple, something sacred. And maybe today, this very story is that bread. A whisper saying, "You're not alone. You're not forgotten. Rise."
Elijah will return, not to the heights of Carmel, but to the work God still has for him. He will anoint kings. He will pass on his mantle. But he is not the same man. He is gentler now, more aware of his limits, more dependent on God. This is the fruit of depression transformed by grace, not that the pain vanishes, but that it becomes a door, a holy invitation. Kierkegaard wrote, "God creates everything out of nothing, and everything that God is to use, he first reduces to nothing." Maybe you are in that reduction now. Maybe the cave is your classroom, and if so, do not despise it. The whisper is coming. The bread is near. The journey will continue, but not in your strength. When Elijah is finally taken up to heaven, it is not in shame or exhaustion. It is in a chariot of fire. The end of his life is glory, and so may it be for you. This darkness is not forever. This ache is not meaningless. Let God meet you here, in the silence, in the stillness, in the cave. Let him ask you, "What are you doing here?" And let your heart answer. Guided prayer. Lord, I am tired. I am burdened. I have run far, but I bring you my emptiness, my silence, my cave. Speak in the whisper. Feed me with your bread. Let me rise again, not in my strength, but in yours.